Have you ever had one of those days where um, you feel less like a human being making conscious choices and more like, I don't know, an avatar in a video game?
Oh, absolutely. Like someone else is holding the controller.
Right. You probably know the exact feeling.
Yeah.
You wake up and it's like you are running on a corrupted script. You're just blindly reacting to whatever obstacles the game throws at you.
Mm.
A delayed train, a rude email, a spilled coffee.
Yeah, the classic spilled coffee.
Exactly. And you find yourself wondering why you keep running into the exact same walls, failing the exact same level over and over again.
It is a deeply unsettling realization, actually. You suddenly notice you aren't actually driving the car of your own life. You're just being taken for a ride by this complex network of ingrained habits and defensive reactions.
Yeah, old programming. So today, we're going to learn how to take that controller back. We're going to explore how to debug your own mind, stop identifying so desperately with that little avatar running around on the screen, and finally understand the rules well enough to master the game of life.
Which is a huge promise, I know.
It is, but we've got an amazing resource for this deep dive today. We are looking at an incredibly unique source produced by Buddha's Practice Incorporated, based out of Australia.
Yeah, it's a fascinating transcript.
It really is. It features a profound dialogue between a thinker named Consultant Benny and Venerable Ivy, who's a seeker of Buddhist teachings. And the production of this material was handled by Notebook Sagam and Dawn.
And what makes this specific dialogue so compelling, at least for me, is the framework it uses. Because it seamlessly bridges ancient Buddhist philosophy with concepts that feel incredibly modern.
Right, like computer programming.
Exactly. Computer programming, video game mechanics, hardware diagnostics, antivirus software. It hands us a highly practical vocabulary for understanding the nature of reality without, getting lost in all the mystical abstraction.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can start debugging our minds and fixing our software, we really have to understand the actual hardware we are running on.
Right, the system itself.
Yeah. The dialogue spends a lot of time on a foundational concept called birth and non-birth. And to explain this, they use the analogy of a screen and a movie.
So let's break that down, because it's the bedrock of absolutely everything else we were going to talk about. Imagine a massive blank theater screen.
Okay, got it.
That pristine screen represents non-birth, or what is sometimes called emptiness or dharma nature. The screen itself never changes. It doesn't age. It doesn't get tired. It is fundamentally still, completely unblemished, and inherently perfect.
But it's just sitting there.
Exactly. Yet without that silent, empty screen, nothing else could exist. It is the absolute foundation for the movie.
But wait, if we are essentially this perfect, pristine screen, doesn't that make us entirely passive? A screen doesn't do anything? How does that translate to the chaotic, hyperactive lives we actually lead?
Well, that is where the birth part of the equation comes in. Birth refers to all the wildly colorful images, the text, the explosive movies that play out on top of that screen.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's the entire trajectory of existence. Birth, aging, illness, death, the rise and fall of empires, the daily drama of your morning commute. All of that is the movie.
Right.
And the critical distinction is that while the screen is pure awareness and potential, the movie is active, moving, and governed by strict underlying rules of cause and effect. That system of cause and effect is what we call karma.
This actually makes me think of what happens physically when you watch a terrifying horror movie.
Oh, that's a good example.
Yeah, you go to a theater, you sit in the dark, and a monster appears on the screen.
Mm-mm.
Your physiological reaction is completely real. Your palms sweat. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing gets shallow.
You are experiencing genuine terror.
Exactly. If you forget that you were just watching light projected onto a flat piece of fabric, you suffer immensely. You're trapped in the illusion. But the very second you snap back and remember the screen,
You're totally safe.
you are. The monster can't scratch the fabric. The screen isn't bleeding. It is just holding the image.
What's fascinating here is that we shouldn't view this as just a poetic metaphor for calming down. When ancient texts, like the Heart Sutra, say things like form is emptiness, emptiness is form, they are attempting to give a literal description of how reality functions.
Like actual physics.
Yes, it mirrors quantum physics in a really fascinating way. Emptiness isn't an empty box with nothing in it. Think of it more like outer space.
Okay.
Space is seemingly void and still, yet it contains the latent potential for the manifestation of billions of galaxies.
So it's the raw material for everything.
Yes. The dialogue actually traces the mechanics of this creation process. It doesn't just say things mysteriously appear. It explains that a single thought arises in that empty space of potential.
A single thought.
Right, and that thought triggers a tangible physical reaction. It fires up your neural network. Your neural network then sends electrical signals to control your body, prompting you to take action.
And then it cascades.
Exactly. Through thousands of those actions, you eventually manifest dense physical realities. You build houses, you manufacture cars, you construct entire cities. The wave of pure potential collapses into the hard particles of your lived experience.
But it all originates from the stillness of the screen.
Precisely.
Okay, so if reality is ultimately just a projection on this pristine screen, and it's governed by this complex system of cause and effect, how do we actually navigate it? Because I look around and it feels like a lot of us are violently crashing our cars in this movie.
We crash because we are ignoring the fundamental physics of the simulation. The dialogue between consultant Benny and Venerable Ivy emphasizes that everything in the universe operates on strict, uncompromising rules. Think of it as a universal standard operating procedure, an SOP.
An SOP for the universe.
Yeah. If you try to build a bridge without understanding gravity, the bridge collapses. Similarly, if you try to build a life acting blindly or just guessing at how human interactions and consequences work, you are mathematically guaranteed to experience failure and pain.
It's like buying a complex piece of IKEA furniture, immediately throwing the instruction manual in the trash, and then getting furious when you end up with a wobbly table that only has 3 legs.
That is a perfect parallel, actually. In this framework, awakening isn't a mystical, floaty state where you just feel blissed out all the time. It is a highly practical, almost scientific achievement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, awakening simply means you have mastered the underlying rules of the SOP. The historical Buddha didn't just sit under a tree to relax. He systematically reverse-engineered reality. He explored the origin, the process, and the result of absolutely everything, achieving what the dialogue refers to as omniscience.
You know, during the conversation, Venerable Ivy brings up a really compelling point about this. She asks, well, if our true nature is that perfect screen, shouldn't the ability to code this reality perfectly already be built into us? Isn't this wisdom innate?
And Benny's answer is really important here.
Yeah. Consultant Benny says, yes, it is innate, but having a tool buried under 20 feet of mud doesn't help you build a house. You have to actually dig it up and meticulously develop it.
He uses agricultural science to illustrate this, which I loved. Imagine a farmer who has mastered 90% of farming techniques.
Okay.
They have the highest quality seeds, they've tilled the soil perfectly, they understand the exact seasonal timing, but they stubbornly refuse to do the final 10%, which is watering the seeds. What is the result of that 90% effort?
A completely barren field of dirt.
Exactly. No sprout will ever break the surface. You don't get 90% of a crop, you get 0. The SOP of the universe requires 100% precision to yield the desired result.
See, I want to pause and push back on this on behalf of the listener, because this can sound incredibly frustrating.
Oh, totally.
If we inherently possess this perfect wisdom, and the universe is just a logical mathematical system of cause and effect, why is getting through a regular Tuesday so incredibly difficult? Why are we failing this game so badly if we already have the cheat codes inside us?
Because possessing a tool and possessing the discipline to use it are two entirely different things.
Right.
To truly master the universal SOP, you have to approach it the way a professional gamer approaches an intensely difficult video game. You cannot just mash the buttons in a panic and hope to beat the boss.
Which is what most of us are doing.
Exactly. You have to study the hitboxes, the timing, the mechanics of every single level. Only when you understand precisely how the game engine responds to your specific inputs can you move smoothly through the world and get the outcomes you want.
So we have the innate capacity to be master programmers of our own lives. But instead, we are sitting at the keyboard writing terrible, buggy spaghetti code.
Yeah, pure spaghetti code.
And the dialogue points out that we do this because we fall into a very specific trap. We identify with the avatar.
Yes. We are the programmers, but we suffer from profound amnesia. The text states that a Buddha is simply someone who writes clean code. Sentient beings, which, includes all of us, write chaotic, messy scripts based entirely on our delusions and our misunderstanding of how the system works.
The text describes this tragic loop that we get stuck in. It explains that sentient beings are constantly being saved from their own terrible mistakes, like metaphorical hells by compassionate forces in the universe, like Siddhigarbha Bodhisattva.
Right.
We are then gifted a human body, which, in this philosophy, is considered an incredibly rare and massive evolutionary opportunity. It's the ultimate tool for writing clean code. And what do we immediately do with it?
We use the human body to act selfishly. We commit bad deeds, we harm others for our own gain, and in doing so, we essentially buy a ticket straight back to the painful situations we were just rescued from.
The dialogue calls this spinning out and spinning in.
Yeah, it is a continuous, exhausting cycle of squandering our potential.
And the root of all this suffering, the core bug in our software, is identification. We genuinely believe that the body, or our career, or our bank account is who we fundamentally are. We think we are the pixels on the screen rather than the screen itself.
There is a very grounded analogy in the text that highlights how this mechanism works. Imagine you discover that $1,000 has been stolen from your bank account.
Oh, I would be devastated.
Right. Your heart sinks, you feel violated, angry, deeply stressed out.
Absolutely.
But now, imagine you were scrolling the news and you read an article about a stranger in another country who had $1,000 stolen from them. How do you react?
I mean, realistically, I might think, that's too bad for them, but I'm going to keep scrolling and finish my sandwich. I'm certainly not losing any sleep over it.
Right, and notice what that proves. The psychological pain doesn't emanate from the mathematical event of $1,000 disappearing. The pain is generated entirely by your identification with it.
Because it's mine.
Exactly. You attached your core sense of self to those specific digital numbers. The absolute moment you define a physical object, a status or a body, as me or mine, you install a vulnerability into your system. You guarantee your own future suffering because the fundamental law of the movie playing on the screen is that everything inevitably changes or disappears.
But let me play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
It is really easy to sit in a studio and say, don't identify with your money. But when a listener's rent is due on the first of the month and that money is gone, the threat of eviction is real. That theft physically hurts their survival. How does a normal person bridge the gap between this lofty philosophy and the reality of needing to pay bills?
That is the crucial distinction to make. The philosophy isn't denying that physical reality has consequences. If you have no money, the physical consequence is that you might lose your shelter and you will experience physical discomfort. That is the reality of the SOP. But the suffering, the agonizing mental loop of how could this happen to me, the anger, the feeling of total personal destruction, that is the extra layer of malware you are running on top of the physical problem.
I see.
The clean code approach is to say, the money is gone. That is the current physical state of the board. What is the most precise, effective next action I can take? You solve the physical problem without the debilitating emotional virus.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this brings us to a fascinating explanation of power and success. The dialogue applies this exact idea of tools versus identity to extreme worldly success, using the example of a United States president.
Oh yeah, this part was wild.
It argues that a person doesn't reach that level of immense global power purely by accident or just by being cutthroat. We need to talk about the karmic physics here.
This is a radical shift from how we normally view power. In this system, true influence is essentially a mathematical equation. It is the delayed structural result of past service.
Service.
Yeah. The idea is that in past iterations of the game, this person took actions that significantly benefited others. Every time you benefit another being, you store potential energy in the system. When you amass an enormous blessing bank account, that potential energy eventually reaches critical mass and collapses into a physical reality where millions of people are subject to your influence.
So you essentially bought shares in their well-being a long time ago. It's like residual energy paying out dividends.
Precisely. Just as the historical Buddha achieved ultimate spiritual success by dedicating himself entirely to the benefit of all beings, a politician or a billionaire is running on the residual fuel of their own past good code.
Wow.
But here's the danger. Once they acquire that massive power, if they forget it's just a temporary tool and start identifying with it, if they use it selfishly to protect their ego, they burn through that karmic bank account incredibly fast. They confuse the avatar's temporary power-ups with their true identity.
Okay, so conceptually, we understand this. We know that identifying with the avatar causes pain. We know that bodies, wealth, and power are just tools. Why is it so profoundly difficult to just snap out of it? Why can't we just put down the controller, take a deep breath, and say, I am the screen?
because our biological computer is infected with a massive systemic virus. And the primary symptom of this virus is the complete fracturing of our attention.
Our attention span.
Yes. The dialogue reminds us that our true Dharma nature, the screen, is completely pure, still, and fully aware, but our day-to-day operating minds are scattered to the wind. Venerable Ivy has this beautiful moment of clarity in the text where she says, I understand now. The body is just an avatar I created to navigate the game, but I completely forgot it's just a tool.
And consultant Benny responds to her realization with the analogy of a broken keyboard. When your mind is corrupted by these underlying viruses, it's literally like trying to type on a laptop where the wiring underneath the keys is fried. You sit down, you have a clear intention, and you try to type the word small. But the computer glitches and outputs the word large.
It's so frustrating.
In real life, this looks like setting an intention to be patient with your kids, but the moment they spill juice, you output rage. You sit down with the intention to finish a work project, but your system outputs 3 hours of doom scrolling on social media.
It is a terrifying loss of agency when you really look at it. You are pressing one button and reality is outputting something entirely different. The Buddhist framework describes this state of mind as restlessness or scattered focus. The term is diaoju.
Diaoju.
Yeah. It is the ingrained habit of constantly dropping your current intention to grab onto a new, shinier distraction. You try to read a book or chant a mantra or have a meaningful conversation with a friend, but an intrusive thought or a notification pops up. You instantly drop your original focus to chase the new stimulus.
There is a surprisingly funny yet painfully accurate analogy used in the text to describe this exact behavior. It's the story of the bear picking corn.
Oh, the bear, yes.
Imagine a bear walking into a massive cornfield. It reaches out, snaps off a beautiful ear of corn, and tucks it under its arm. Then it takes 2 steps and sees another ear of corn. So it reaches for the new one, but to grab it, it has to drop the first one.
Right.
Then it spots a third, drops a second to grab the third. The bear does this all day long, exhausting itself, and ultimately walks out of the field at sunset holding absolutely nothing.
So what does this all mean? It's funny, but it cuts deep because it is the exact architecture of our modern daily lives.
I'm absolutely the bear.
Right.
Think about your own evening routine. You sit down on the couch to watch a movie you've been looking forward to. 10 minutes in, you pull out your phone to quickly check an email. Then you open Instagram. Then you're texting a friend while the movie plays in the background. While you are scrolling a feed, while part of your brain is stressing about a meeting tomorrow. We are constantly dropping one ear of corn for another, and then we lay in bed at night wondering why we feel so empty and haven't accomplished anything meaningful.
We're trying to operate a system infected with heavy malware. The dialogue identifies the specific source code of these viruses. They are greed, anger, ignorance, and doubt.
Okay.
If you are attempting to win the game of life or achieve any lasting peace using a brain infected with these viruses, it is a mathematical impossibility. Think about it. You cannot render a beautiful 4K video or write a brilliant novel on a laptop that randomly shuts down, opens bizarre spam windows, and deletes your files without permission. Your mind operates under the exact same mechanical constraints.
Okay, so we have the diagnosis. Our core hardware is actually flawless. We are the pristine screen, but our software is deeply infected, our attention is entirely fractured, and our keyboard is outputting the wrong code. How do we actually run the antivirus? How do we debug the system in real time and regain our agency?
Well, this is where we get to the actual mechanics of cultivation or practice.
Mm-hmm.
In this context, practice isn't about retreating to a silent cave, burning incense, and wishing for world peace.
Right.
It is the highly active, highly precise engineering work of fixing your mind-body outputs. The dialogue compares our scattered minds to a Buddha's mind. A Buddha's operating system is completely clean. When they encounter an obstacle, they navigate it smoothly because their inputs perfectly match their outputs. There is zero latency.
Whereas our minds are filled with obnoxious automatic pop-up windows. You know exactly the ones I mean. You were trying to read a quiet article online and suddenly a window flashing, "Congratulations, you won," or "Warning, virus detected," hijacks your entire screen.
It's the worst.
In our mental landscape, those pop-ups are sudden bursts of irrational greed or a wave of hot anger or deep anxiety. They jump onto the screen without our permission.
And the solution to this is profoundly simple in theory, though, it requires immense discipline to execute. You have to stop identifying with the avatar that is experiencing the pop-ups.
Stop identifying.
Right. To do this, we have to look at how our past code prints our present reality. In this framework, your past actions essentially print out your physical body and your immediate physical constitution. This is sometimes called direct retribution.
Direct retribution. Okay.
And your past actions also print out your external environment, your wealth, and your circumstances, which is dependent retribution. The vital insight is realizing that both your body and your environment are just the delayed output of past karma. The code has already been executed, it is already baked into the game.
So let's make this highly practical. You are at work. Your boss says something incredibly dismissive and unfair. A massive, fiery pop-up of anger flashes onto your mental screen. Your blood pressure spikes. The adrenaline hits. It feels completely real and justified. How does the listener actually let the pop-up jump in vain? How do they run the antivirus in that exact second?
The instruction here is brilliant in its simplicity. Do not click the pop-up.
Don't click it.
True practice isn't about violently repressing the anger or pretending the boss wasn't rude. It is recognizing that the biological surge of anger is just a piece of rogue automated code running in the background. You observe it, but you do not follow the affliction. If a spam window pops up on your computer asking for your credit card, you don't argue with it and you certainly don't type your numbers in, you ignore it.
You just let the window sit there until it goes away.
Yes. The dialogue uses a fantastic phrase for this. If you ignore the pop-ups, they will jump in vain. They will eventually crash and close themselves because you were starving them of computational resources, you were starving them of your attention. Instead of clicking the virus, you consciously choose to run clean code. In this system, clean code is defined as the 10 good deeds actions, like not speaking harshly, not acting out of malice, maintaining patience. You force the hardware to execute the good script, even while the bad pop-ups are frantically flashing on the screen.
Let the anger jump in vain. Let the anxiety jump in vain. That is incredibly powerful. Consultant Benny has this final, striking realization in the text where he issues a warning. Don't act in a play and sing so hard that you forget you're acting and get totally lost in the character.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the ultimate reminder not to take the avatar too seriously. You are playing a temporary role right now. Play it exceptionally well. Use the body, use the wealth, use the resources as precision tools to benefit the game board. But never lose sight of the fact that you are the silent awareness watching the screen, not the chaotic pixels violently colliding on it.
This has been a deeply shifting journey today. Just to briefly recap the map we've laid out, you, the listener, are not the chaotic, stressful movie playing out in your life right now. You're not the broken keyboard outputting mistakes, and you certainly are not the virus-infected avatar. At your very core, you are the pristine, unbroken, perfectly still screen. By mastering the strict cause and effect of the SOP, and by developing the discipline to let those mental pop-ups jump in vain without clicking on them, you can finally take back the controller.
Which leaves us with a fascinating, almost paradoxical question to consider.
Ooh.
Yeah. If everything we experience is fundamentally a projection, and our deepest suffering comes from identifying too closely with this temporary avatar, what happens to our sense of empathy?
That's a great point.
Does stepping back and realizing it's all a constructed game make us cold, distant, and nihilistic? Or, perhaps, by finally deleting the virus of our own desperate, selfish attachments, do we suddenly free up the system's memory? Do we become capable of truly loving and benefiting others without conditions, just like the ultimate programmers?
That is a profound question to chew on. When you no longer need all your energy to fiercely protect your own avatar, you finally have the bandwidth to help everyone else level up. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep digging up that innate wisdom buried in the dirt, and whatever happens out there today, watch out for those mental pop-ups. Don't click them, let them jump in vain.